Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's time for Webi-NRR, our webinar series about net revenue retention here at Start Deliver. Great to see you all. I'm Johan Nilsson. I'm the CEO and founder behind Start Deliver, and I'm the host for this webinar series that we do at Start Deliver. Today, we're going to talk about how to stop pleasing customers. That's the topic of today, and very important topic. And we're going to get into the gist of things soon. A little bit about the series. If you have missed the first two episodes, check them out. We have them as recordings. We will do 2 more episodes. There's a five webinar series. And we are doing these live, and we want a lot of interaction during the webinars. So feel free to post questions as we go along here. We've been seeing a lot of questions coming in, so just feel free, shoot them out. We're gonna manage them along the way. So it's gonna be a little bit interactive. If you're watching the recording, I hope you enjoy the questions as well. Usually you have similar questions yourself, so that's the main point here, to get to the essence of things and really answer the most pressing things that you have top of mind. All these things are based on what we do at Impact Academy and Start Deliver, and all this content will be shared with you after the webinar as well. We're heading into part 3, as I mentioned. Before I go into there, I'm just going to give you a quick intro also to what we do at Start Deliver. So we make a customer success platform. We have purposely built a platform for teams working in customer success, so you can get away from working in spreadsheets and CRMs and other non-purpose-built tools, basically. So make sure to check it out. If you're not a customer already, you can sign up on our web for a demo and get an intro and see if there's something in there for you. This webinar series is called Webi-NRR because net revenue retention is the North Star metric in any subscription business. And it's an easy financial metric, but it's a lot harder to actually impact and change and develop and grow. And that's why this webinar series is important in our mind. And we've been talking a lot about, in the previous episodes, we're talking about churn. We've been talking about the churn iceberg, that it's a lagging indicator. And usually if you have a big problem with churn right now, you should have done things differently earlier, basically. And we talked about that in the previous episodes. I'm going to dig into some things today as well on how you can actually improve your churn, basically reduce it, right? So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're also later in this series going to talk about expansion. So the other part of net revenue retention is, of course, expansion, which is very important if you want to have a high net revenue retention. Today's topic, we call it Stop Pleasing Customers. And as a founder, as someone that's really into the customer success world of, a lot of times when I talk to customer success managers and I talk to leaders in customer success, there's many people talking about, okay, how can we be more efficient? One side is looking at how can we cut costs? How can we save money? How can we basically improve our ARR per employee? That's one side of the things. Another side is, yeah, we want to be customer centric. We want to do everything for the customer. And are those two sides conflicting? In my mind, no. You have to do both, basically. You have to be very efficient, run a super efficient operation, but you also need to be super customer centric. And I think this is what customer success in 2024, soon 2025, is all about. How can you do both things? And that's what we're going to address today, because in our mind at Start Deliver and at Impact Academy, it's all about how we can maximize impact. How we can maximize impact the customer gets from our platform, our service, our product. And it's all about that. And then we need to look at how we, as a customer success organization, as a company, can maximize that. If we do that, it doesn't matter, the efficiency and customer centricity part plays into this. So that's the foundation here, basically. And today we're going to talk about one thing that really I think sometimes stands in a way for creating and maximizing impact. And that's when we do what I call please customers. And I'm going to tell you a story. When I was 15 years old, I worked at a hotel in Austria, and I was working as a bellboy, basically carrying people's bags, doing that type of customer success. And I thought I was fluent in German when I went there, but I realized in reality my German was very minimal. I barely understood anything, actually. But I was very afraid to show that for my customers, so I basically said yes to everything. Yeah, I can do everything. And of course, the customers realized that I didn't know what I was talking about, basically. But that's a very simplistic way of what I want to talk about today. Basically, us, just as I did when I was there in Germany working as a bellboy, I was afraid basically of the customer. And I was just there. I hope if I said yes to everything, I was hoping they would be happy with me by just saying yes. And that's of course not the story. And many years later, I know how devastating that is. And that's not what the customer wants, right? So I want to dig into that a little bit. And there are some symptoms if you do please your customers too much. And some very obvious symptoms here is that if we do a lot of discounts, that's usually an indicator that we are very much into pleasing the customers. Okay, we lower your, we give you 10%, we give you this, we give you that. If there's a lot of discounts going on, we are most likely in a pleasing mode with the customers. Another symptom that's quite common is also that we spend a lot of free hours. We do things for the customer free of charge. We help them with building the report. We help them doing this and that and so on. And another one that I know is very common out there is also this scenario where the customer is not answering. The customer is ghosting us, basically. We are trying to get an appointment. We're trying to set up a business review. We're trying to follow up on the last meeting. We don't get any answers. And that's also a symptom of being in the pleasing mode. And one really devastating and really long-term, very harming for us and for the customer is that we let them deviate from what the product is meant to do. We let them deviate from our best practices. So basically, we let the customer build and do and create what I sometimes see like a Frankenstein's monster. The product was supposed to do this, but they created their own type of thing, and that never works. And that's going to come back and bite us, basically. Another typical common symptom here is that they are late, basically. We set up deadlines. Maybe it's an onboarding project. Maybe it's an upgrade. Maybe there is whatever we're doing, and they're never doing their part. They're never showing up in meetings. They're never doing their part in time and so on. So that's also a very common symptom when we are pleasing the customers a lot. And the last one here is that we are doing a lot of support issues. Basically, we are doing support job here. That's also when we get into this pleasing mode. It's easier to do the thing than actually ask the customer to do it themselves, or maybe even refer it to support. So these are very common. And now I want to see a little bit where you stand in the group. I got some questions coming in, but meanwhile we'll do a poll here. And I would like to ask everyone what's their most common, what they dislike the most. I mean, out of these, show me what you think here. What do you dislike the most out of these different things? Exciting. So we get discounts. Oh, ghosting is climbing here. I think ghosting, nobody likes the ghosting part. I'm going to just check the questions coming in as well. There are some coming in. I will get to some of these things shortly, but feel free to keep asking questions for sure. So ghosting, I think, is the winner here, the clear winner. And I'll finish the poll there. So ghosting is the number one here. There can be other reasons for ghosting, of course, but one thing can be basically that we're not getting the customer's attention. And I'm not going to go into a little bit more of what can we do about this? If we feel that in some cases we are actually in just pleasing the customer, how do we actually fix this? And there's 3 parts to the fix here. I want to go through all of them, and feel free to ask questions here now. So first, number 1 here I want to talk about is intent. Number 2 is confidence, and number 3 is positioning. So when we try to please the customer, we need to remind ourselves what is our role? Is our role just to say, like I did, just to say yes to the customer, or what is our role in customer success? And our role in customer success, we need to help the customer achieve their goals, basically. They're buying our product, our service, because they want to do something. They want to become faster, better. They want to have more revenue. They want to save cost. They want to be more efficient. They have goals. And our job in customer success is to help them achieve these goals. And if we just please them, there is no guarantee that they will achieve these goals. Actually, what my experience is that we actually are further away from achieving the goals, because oftentimes we need to put up demands on the customer. We need to actually push them. They need to change usually things on their side. So if we're in pleasing mode, we risk not getting to these goals, not helping them actually reach their goals. So number 1 is the intent part. So we need to be clear, what is our role? We need to remind ourselves that our role as customer success is help customers achieve their goals. That is success, basically. And number 2 here is confidence. We see this a lot. I have my friend Lincoln Murphy here. We run the Impact Academy together. And what we mean here is that sometimes when we're in pleasing mode, we're not confident enough to talk about these goals. And at Impact Academy, we have a framework. We call it objective confidence. It's Lincoln's framework. And basically what we talk about here, confident, you can be confident by yourself. Maybe you have a good day. Maybe you are that by nature, whatever. But in a customer situation, in a customer success situation, we want to be objectively confident. So no matter how you feel, you can perform and you can be confident in a call, in a meeting with the customer. And to break that down, basically it comes down to a few parts. The most important 3, I would say, is preparation. So we need to be prepared. Basically, going into a meeting, we need to have the full context. How is this customer doing? What was the last discussion? What did we talk about before? Who are the stakeholders? All these things we need to prepare. And we need to, of course, know, do they have issues? Are they suffering from bugs, issues, and so on? So we need to make sure that we really get all these things sorted before we get into the call. This builds our confidence. We need to have a clear process as well around this. How do we set up a call? Who do we bring along? What are the next steps? What do the customer need to prepare on their side? What do we need to expect? And so on. So there needs to be a process around it as well. And if you do parts 1 and 2 here, you can have a presence in the meeting. A lot of times when you are not prepared, you don't know you don't have a clear process. All you do in the meeting is thinking about what you should say in the meeting, rather than focusing on what is the customer actually talking about here. Maybe they will have objections. Maybe you're trying to get them to do things that are change management. Maybe they will have objections against that. Have you prepared those and you're present in the meeting? It's much easier in the meeting to actually act on those things. So preparation, process, and presence are key things to build what we call objective confidence. We have a complete framework around this, and you can, of course, go our program at Impact Academy and work on this and learn a lot more. We also have a lot of frameworks, or deeper frameworks around it, and also ways of working with this. And also just to back to this efficiency part. So is it hard for you to prepare? You're less likely to do this. I've seen this so many times. if it's really hard to understand where the customer is, if the data is scattered, if you have to look in 3-5 different systems, you will not prepare as you need to. If you have Start Deliver, you will of course get this out of the box in a very simple format. You will see the usage health, you will see all the interactions, you will see who the stakeholders are, you see everything. And that makes preparations more easy. And again, right, we have an efficiency challenge. So make sure to enable preparations. I think that's a key thing here to also help your team be more confident in the meeting. So that was one. Intent was one. Confidence, number 2. And number 3 here is positioning. So basically, how do the customer view you in the meeting? And this is, if you haven't thought about this, I think it's really, really an eye-opener, because usually when you get into a call, the customer will have a view on who you are in that call, and depending on what you want to achieve in the meeting, they're going to act differently. I think I would say like a good position is to be like if you want to talk about the business outcomes and the goals of the customer, you want them to view you as an advisor, as a business person that they can discuss and they can get inspiration from and they can see new things. But if they view you as a support person or a product specialist, or just an assistant even, in maybe the worst case, then they will probably not work with you in the way we want to. So positioning is a very key part. And here I again wanted to do a little bit of a poll and see from your experience, from what you do, what your experience is here. And let me get this going. So we're gonna do the second poll here, and this time basically, what are examples of poor positioning you might face? So can some people see you as support, product specialist, assistant, or other? I'm really curious if you can find something else that you sometimes get positioned as. Support is trending up, and I see this a lot, of course. So I would expect that to be the thing. Just a few questions. So of course, you need to be a product specialist, or you need to know the product very well in customer success. No doubt about it. A lot of times you come from support, maybe you worked in support and you're in customer success now, so you know a lot of things and you can do the support things. And you can probably help the customer with a lot of things. But this is again back to this topic of this webinar, is that if you do that just to please the customer, they will never see you as anything else. So a way to position yourself in the right way is to instead of taking a support ticket and actually solving it yourself, is to teach the customer that they need to talk to support to get this solved. And of course, if they get product specific questions, of course you can answer them, but more, and here you want to change the dialogue, so you talk more about what are they trying to achieve, where are they going, what's their plan for the next year, what are some key milestones. You need to work with your questions and your goal discovery to understand, maybe you're answering them correctly on the product side, but it's not correctly in terms of what they're trying to achieve. And that's the key here, that you of course you want to be a product specialist and you want to know the product very well. You want to be able to most of the support things, and you want to be helpful, but you want it to be you want to elevate the dialogue and talk more about these business goals and not just please the customer and do whatever they say, because then you're going to be stuck in this position basically. Great stuff. So support was the number one poor position. And I'll take a question here. Any idea how to track and report the symptoms systematically, as they can be great customer health indicators, also for churn? Of course, and you can track this in many ways. I would say sometimes it's hard to. I mean, discounts. There are different data points basically. Of course, you can look at contraction or discounts. I would say it's very important across portfolios of customers, on total, maybe quarter by quarter. How much contraction do we have? If that's going up, that's usually an indicator. We talked about free hours or how many like giving out free time. I would say that's very important also to track time and see, are we giving out a lot of free time? You can time track that basically, and be very clear that we don't spend time doing anything on the customer's account unless they actually pay for it. Or we can maybe do a goodwill thing sometimes, but that's capped to a certain amount of hours. So you can time track those things for sure. And so there's a lot of things you can do here. Of course, the harder parts are like ghosting and those parts. Those are harder to basically track as in numbers. But I would say that you can track that more from a progress point of view with the customers. Back to this thing, we want to see the customers having impact with our product. We can measure the health. Basically, we can measure usage, we can measure outcomes, and we can measure the progress. Is the customer adopting more and more of the platform? Or is the customer adopting, going both deeper and wider in the adoption of the platform? That could be an indicator that they're getting more impact from our platform. So I would say all these things are measurable for sure, and I would highly recommend measuring them, but I would also highly recommend just talking about them with the team. And maybe they can in your one-to-ones, if you have a team, maybe they could list what are the biggest challenges for you right now with your customers, and then you can of course map that to the actual data you have as well. But for sure they are indicators, and they are indicators both in terms they are early indicators for churn issues, but they're also indicators on how we are performing as a customer success team. So they're very important in that part as well. Great question. I will also move on to another part here. Basically, so we need to fix things on our side. So we need to work on the intent. Is everybody clear on what we're trying to achieve? We're here to help the customer achieve their goals. We're here to help them get business outcomes. That's our job. We can work on our objective confidence, and we can work on our positioning, basically. That's what we can do on our side. What we can do on the customer side, basically how we can get to not pleasing customers, but actually having an impact on customers. Also here, 3 things that I think are really important, and they are linked, basically. So I talked about this a lot. Goals. We need to talk about business goals. We need to work with, sometimes the customer don't know this, or they haven't articulated this, or they haven't updated this for a while, and they need to be reminded of it as well. So goals needs to be a part of our discussion. A great way to get there is to use social proof. Basically, use what you do with other customers, what they have achieved. Use that as inspiration, but also as a way to build yourself in the eyes of the customer. We talked about positioning. If you come into a meeting and you have 3, 4 similar customers, and you can showcase what you did with them in terms of business outcomes and how your product helped them get there, that's going to be a really interesting dialogue, and I'm 100% sure that will change the positioning for you. If you have been more of a support person and you're already start talking about these things, that's going to change the mind of the customer, and sometimes that's going to surprise them. But that's what you will. There's no bad in doing that. And maybe you can even say, maybe you're not used to having suppliers that talk about business goals, but that's how we do things. And I've seen such a great result when we're aligning on the goals, and we can look at the product and how we can support you achieve them. So goals is key here. Social proof is a great way of creating both the positioning we want, but also helping the customer identifying what could my goals be and how can I get there. And the third part here is getting away from us doing all the work, us being an assistant, us doing support. It's the collaboration part. Basically, we're in it together with the customer. They have bought our platform, our SaaS product, but they need to do things on their side. And that's usually when we are stuck with the customer, when things are not happening, the customer is not doing their things. So we need to clarify expectations and accountability, basically. And a great way to do that is to set up a collaboration with the customer. We know the goal. We have a benchmark, what we did with another customer in social proof. Now we need to get there. And their customer, you need to do things on your side. And this is where the pleasing stops and where we get to exciting part where we can actually talk about driving change and achieving something together. The collaboration part is so important because there's going to be different stakeholders on the customer side and they need to all be on board. They need to talk between themselves. So you need to work have a timeline. You need to have you have the goal, you have a timeline. They need to do things. So you can hand out tasks to them. You can say, you do these things, we will do these things, and then we'll get going and we're going to hit this goal together. So this is a complete change of dynamics. If you've been in a more of a support pleasing mode, when you get into this, you're into a dynamic, more collaborative approach to customer success. And the difference is huge here. But you need to put more responsibility on the customer. And there's many ways to do this. We have in Start Deliver, we have a shared space functionality where you basically can do all these things in a branded shared space where you can hand out tasks, you can share the goal, you can update each other on everything that's going on. So it's a way to manage this collaboration in an effective way, basically. So that's the last part in how we can change things on the customer side. I have a few questions. I'm going to summarize and then we'll take some Q&A. So basically, there are several symptoms when we're pleasing customers. I think a great question was here, start measuring this, start looking at this, start talking to the team about these things, because they will drain you. And if we go back to the start there, we need to be super efficient and super customer-centric. And we cannot waste it on these things. So that's number one. We need to identify those things. We can fix this by being very clear on our intent, what we are here for, by preparing so we are confident in all the situations we're going to face. And we want to have a position as a real business advisor for helping the customer. And then we need to align on the goals with the customer. We can use social proof here. And then we need to work with collaboration. We need to put more things on the customer. They need to do more on their side to get to these goals. And that's exciting, but you need to get there. So this is the summary in a nutshell. I got some questions. When is it okay to let the customer deviate from best practices? Very good question. And I would say it's a hard one. My experience is that a lot of times when the customer has a very, very clear idea on how they want to use our product, and if it's very far from our best practice, it's usually going to end up in a mess. And it's sometimes they have the best intentions, but maybe they don't really know what they're doing. And this is where we need to be really the expert, both in the product, but more so in understanding what they're trying to achieve, so we can really guide them to the right things. And we need to be very clear also when we know things are not going to go well. Again, pleasing is hurtful here. If we just say yes and they build this Frankenstein, they're going to blame us. And if we know Frankenstein is going to happen, we need to actually be very clear and frank to the customer and say, I've seen other customers trying this and it's failed every time. But what I've seen that's really working is this. And as I understood, your goal was the same as this customer who did this. I would strongly recommend we do this. So this is where you need to be assertive and you need to actually you need to actually say no to the customer. Another question, how long should I keep following up with a customer who's ghosting me before I stop trying? You never stop. No, of course, you need to be efficient also here. So if you don't get a response from a customer, it can be many reasons, but usually it comes down to they don't really see a value talking to us, or me even, it can be. And why? Maybe they see us as support. They see us just as this product specialist, and I don't need something right now with the product specialist. So it could be a positioning problem. And a way to fix that is actually to either have someone else reach out to this person from our side, or that I reach out to someone else. Because just chasing someone to infinity is usually not very efficient or something exciting to do. So switch between yourself and someone else. Maybe your manager can reach out to their manager. Maybe you can talk to someone else, a user, whatever. So find another way to get information, to get things going. How can we use data to make arguments for not giving out free stuff? Yeah, this free thing is something that we do. We try to please the customer by giving freebies. And sometimes, of course, that's goodwill. We need to do that because maybe we failed on our side and we need to compensate them for something. But when we just give free things because we have nothing better to do or nothing better to offer, we shoot ourselves in the foot, because they're not going to value that. I would say, like, if you don't value it, then you're not even going to appreciate it. So if we just give them free hours, or we fix everything for free and we never bring that up, they're just going to use that, and typically they actually get less value from us as a supplier. But when we put the value on things, when we say, hey, we can help you here, we can actually build this report for you, but it's going to cost you 20, 50, 40K or whatever, 40 hours or whatever we see is the cost of doing this, then they're going to appreciate it a lot more as well. So I think the free thing is usually pleasing, a way of pleasing that's hurtful, both that we miss revenue, but it's also hurtful that we become less efficient, and it's hurtful that the customer usually doesn't appreciate it enough. All right. How can I hold customers accountable for deadlines without damaging the relationship? Great one. And I mentioned it, but I'll say it again. I think this is very important. And this is a lot of times something we can do a lot better at, I would say, in customer success generally. Because we are ambitious, and take an onboarding. Usually we are doing a lot of things in the onboarding from our side, but usually the customer needs to do a lot of things on their side. And what a very common scenario is that we do our things, and then we have a meeting, and we remind the customer of the things they were supposed to do. And the customer say, yeah, well, we haven't gotten to that yet, but we'll do it next week. And then you have another meeting, and they still haven't done it, and so on. And that's when we let that happen, we are pleasing the customer, but even more so, we are actually getting them further away from their business goal. That's how we need to see this. Back to the intent again. We are here to help them achieve their business goals. Maybe they can grow their revenue 25% if we do things right with them. Maybe they can save 10 million next year if we do things right with them. So we need to get back to these goals, and to be very clear on that. We have a tight deadline for this onboarding, because we want to help you get to your goal as fast as possible. And we need you to do these things on your side. Can we agree on this timeline? At the next meeting, can you have done A, B, and C? We will do all the other things. I will check in with you before the meeting to make sure you've done your things, because then the meeting can be all about next steps, and we can all be all about these more creative things that we need to do. But you need to do your part. So this comes back to being assertive. And the way to be assertive is that we have the intent. Why are we doing this? They can they can get a lot of value out of us, a lot of value, but we need to do things on both sides. So I would say that's the key here. We need to get back to that. Then, of course, we need to be very, very good on managing this project, managing the customer. And this is where a shared space, collaboration, being very clear, getting away from just emailing back and forth, bringing the customer to on the same page, having the stakeholder, the C-level person who bought this product, all the operation people, the users, have everyone on the same page on how things are going. Because that's also something that sometimes is miscommunicated, and that's where we lose a lot of momentum as well. A lot of great questions. I'm going to wrap the webinar, and thanks for joining, and see you back at Webi-NRR number 4 coming up shortly. All the best.